Well, it's 7:30 p.m. and this is the call to order the meeting number 7 of the Westborough Town Seal Review Committee. It's December 2nd, Thursday night at 7:30. First order of business is to accept 2 sets of minutes. The first set of minutes is from our October 28th meeting, and I would accept a motion to accept those minutes.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of the October 28th meeting.
So we have a motion to accept the minutes of the October 28th meeting. Eric, we just got started working.
Yeah,
Just
I
doing
signed a little
accepting-
late.
No, you're fine, we're
Yeah.
just doing the minutes.
Sure.
Is there any discussion on the minutes from the October 28th meeting? Seeing none, if you're in favor of accepting those minutes, could you just raise your hand, please? All right, let the record show that was a unanimous vote. All right, now let's turn to the minutes for the first public information gathering session on November 15th. And again, I'll accept a motion to accept those minutes.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of the November 15th meeting.
So we have a motion from Wendy to accept the minutes on November 15th. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, if you're in favor of accepting the minutes, would you signify by raising your hand? Okay, let the record show it was a unanimous vote. So our first order of business is some information correspondence that we've received from the committee. We have a member of the community who's here tonight, and she's asked if she could speak. She was unable to go to the information gathering session on November 15th. I think we should vote on whether to allow this person to speak or not. So I'd entertain a motion to do that.
A motion to allow the guests to speak.
All right. Is there any discussion about this? This would be the same time limit as what we had for the information gathering session, and it would be 3 minutes long. Is there any discussion? Any concern?
I would be open to the idea that this person came out and 3 minutes seems sort of arbitrary in light of what we might want to do here. And so I'd say maybe we'd go 5 minutes to accommodate what they might want to share with us.
Any further discussion?
I would agree.
Hearing none, if we're in favor of allowing this person to speak, could you raise your hand and signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Great. So the people at home can, because there's a camera in the room, so the people at home can see you. Could I just ask that if you want to maybe step closer, the protocol we're going to ask you to do is just to say your name, just where you live in Westborough,
Okay.
and then just speak to us. I just don't know if you're in view.
Do you want me to move over there? She can say.
Yeah, if you want to do that, Jenna, that might do it.
Would you want me to move?
No, I don't think you need to. Maybe you can sit where Jenna is, and then Jenna will move here. Will that work for you? So if you could just go, maybe sit over.
Oh, I can sit over there?
Yes, please. Okay. So welcome. Again, if you could just tell us your first and last name and where you live.
Okay, my name's Denise Celebrezza. I live at 16 Fairview Road in Westborough. And why I'm here today is because I saw in the paper regarding people are questioning about the town seal to be changed. And why I'm here is I feel that there should be no change. Westborough and the residents of Westborough should be very proud that Al Whitney from this town has done an extreme invention and was able to patent, regarding the clock, and it's worldwide right now. And if there are people in town that are against it, I feel that they should either move or don't wear cloth items if they're so against cloth. And what he did, like I said, he was a resident. No one should belittle him. I think Westborough is stronger, and if you take his name, his picture away, and do a new seal, I feel it degrades the town. We have been in high standing for years, even for Massachusetts. And why take someone's achievements away? You know, Westborough has been very good. I'm very happy and proud to live here and to keep that name. And like I said, Westborough is high ranking. And like I said, if things changed, I wouldn't be surprised if down the road houses went down. And the town's not going to look as strong. Like we celebrate 300 and something years. You know, Whitney helped start, not just for our town, but for the world. And it's still in action with what he has done. And it's improved. We wouldn't be wearing clothes, all the stuff that we have, if it wasn't for his greatness. So I feel people should be proud of his accomplishment. And he was a Westborough resident. So I feel that seal should remain.
If you feel like you still have some time if you'd like to continue to speak. If you feel like you've had your say,
Yeah.
you're welcome to stop.
Yeah, well, I feel that people should be proud. Someone in their town, you know, that was many, many years ago, but they achieved something. And it's not where it was just temporary, it's lifelong. He did a big achievement, so why take his name off the board and wipe him out? You know, he's done a great, great job. He should be acknowledged. And there's nothing wrong with that seal.
All right. Thank you very much for taking the time to come in. And we will, like all the other comments we received at the public hearing, we'll take them under consideration. All right. So thank you very much for coming. You're welcome to certainly stay if you wish. Okay. And I would ask you if you're going to stay to sit back in the public area.
Okay.
And thank you very much for coming.
Yeah,
All
well,
right.
I thank you
All right. Thank you
for
very
letting
much.
me talk. You know,
Thank
it's
you.
been a pleasure.
We, so just to move on a little bit, it's just a couple of pieces of reporting I'd like to do. I did represent the board. Ala and I were intending to go speak to the board, to the select board in November, in mid-November, and on, I think it was November 7th or 8th, I forget the date. I did go and present remarks to the board on our progress. And at that meeting, one of the things that I did ask, I informed the board about the number of meetings that we had had so far, and that we had planned to do the information gathering session. So basically reported on what transpired. I did ask at the end for some advice from them, from that board, about other groups we should contact in town. One of the pieces of advice came from the chair of the board, who strongly suggested that we consider creating access on the website for the town for additional public comment. He had watched our meeting on October 28th, where we had substantial discussion about whether we should allow public comment and then in-person public comment, and then also to allow the responses from people who had written through email. So his suggestion was that we also add to our method of gathering information, comment from residents on the town website. So that was one suggestion. A second list of another suggestion.
And did you get a sense of what substantial would that be different from here's our email address and please send your comments?
Yeah, I think the thinking was that then those comments his thinking was the comments will then be public.
Yeah.
So
it
that.
sounds like posting it to a wall almost.
Yes,
like a
so
Facebook
by,
thing.
yeah, so by doing that, because remember, we had the unknown of how many people were gonna come to the meeting,
Mhm.
the first information gathering session, and how long, we were toiling with how many minutes to have each person speak. And really, I thought when we first walked in, I counted, there were 23 people there. And you're doing the logistics math in your head and you're saying, okay, well, 3 minutes, 23 people apiece, plus allow at least a minute for the person to come up and speak. You start to do the math on that. I was like, okay, if we're kind of going to alternate back and forth, it's going to take longer. Now, in the end, that didn't happen. We had 16 people speak. We had 13 original speakers and 3 people speak multiple times. And that with the 14 email letters that we received, we were able to do that in about an hour. So logistically, it did work. However, I do see his point about having that other option to allow people to present that way too. So I bring that to you as one suggestion. And we can decide to do that, we can decide not to do that, we could discuss that if you want, but I just thought I would bring that back. Each select board member was very praiseworthy of the work that we've done so far, thanked all of us for all the work, the time, the careful listening and the planning that we've done. Select board member Shelby Marshall sent a separate letter, which you have a copy of in the agenda tonight. It's the second page in, and there are a list of bullet points. There are, I think there are eight bullet points there with suggestions on, additionally with suggestions of different clubs and groups and interest groups to contact in the town of Westborough. I think when we get to the reaction about the information gathering session and then the planning about where we go next, I would suggest that we go back to this list when we get there, or unless you want to talk about it right now, we can do that. But I think the list provided by Select Board Member Marshall is quite exhaustive, and I think it would be a way for us to be able to speak and touch different groups and also to gather more information. In addition to that, the Select Board member also offered to invite this committee to come to a Westborough TV show called Frank and Mary in Westborough that is taped twice a month on the first and third Wednesdays. And the target audience are individuals who are 50 and older. So that might be another consideration that we could have for this group. I should mention also, since the last time we did meet, Ala and I spoke to a reporter from the Community Advocate. That article appeared about a week before the first information gathering session. So that's another piece. A third piece of communication, and it's the third page in. Again, this is something to give some thought to tonight, and something we can make a decision about when we schedule information gathering session number 2 and then number 3. It's from Kieran O'Donnell, who's a Westborough resident. Kieran makes a suggestion in here, wanted to find out if this group would allow a PowerPoint presentation or photos of some sort if people were going to speak at the next information gathering session. So I put that out there, it's something to give some thought to. And I know that with any of this email, Ian's been terrific about responding to different people who wrote. Alla and I have tried instead also to respond when it's something that might just move slightly outside of just a comment from the public, which is why I did respond to Kieran. Then the last one I wanted to mention is the last page in your packet. I sent an email last Sunday and then followed up with a phone call to Alma DeManche, who's the executive director of the Westborough Senior Center. And I proposed some dates in January, and I made it quite clear in that email that none of this could be decided upon without a vote of this committee, and that I just wanted to try to get some kind of a feel from Alma whether any of these dates might work, number one. Number two, in order for us to get that information for what would be technically a third information gathering session through the senior center, we need to get that information to Alma by December 15th. So we need to make a decision about that tonight, okay? And then you could see Alma's response at the bottom, which essentially saying any of the dates work. She would suggest that we also add a snow day. She thinks afternoons are better. In the message I sent, I had said that the dates I proposed were Saturday, January 8th, time frames 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. or 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And then also Saturday, January 15th, Monday, January 17th, which is a federal holiday to honor Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. But what I did say to Alma on the phone was that most of the people in this committee work Monday through Friday, so it might be a little difficult to be able to get someone to go specifically, or to get the group of us to go to that information session. Finally, last piece, and then we'll move on. I received this. It's a little drawing. This came in the mail at my home. It's from a man who was a former principal here in Westborough. Staff. Yeah, he said he was a principal, and a student and staff member in the Westborough school system named Charles Fournier. And he called me twice. We just missed each other. He now lives in Shrewsbury, but he sent me a drawing of what he suggested might be considered if our committee decides to change the seal. So I'm going to pass this around, so you're all welcome to have a look at that. Okay, does that make sense? All right. And so that's what I have for so much for correspondence. Do any of you have any correspondence that you've received separately that we need to know about?
I did get a letter in the mail. Did I share it though with everybody from
You did,
a Charles Ward?
You scanned that and sent it to us, yeah.
I thought I did.
From Charles Ward, yes. And most recently, Christy Williams, the town manager, also forwarded us another comment over the weekend. Yes, everybody, I assume,
I
saw
didn't
it.
see that one, but I forget it.
Well, while we're moving, when I get a moment here, I'll make sure that I'm pretty sure I sent it, but I'll double check. All right, so we're all that's kind of up to date on that, yeah. All right, how about we move into what your thoughts were about the information gathering session? I think the fundamental question here is, how do you think it went? And then the second question is, based on the three questions that we had framed at our meeting meetings in October, do you feel like you started to gather information from the community that we were seeking? So I'm asking kind of in a roundabout way, did the questions do their job? Do you feel like the information we got did provide some sense and some semblance of what you thought? So I'm curious what you thought.
Yeah, I thought we got good information from people. But I don't know, I think they all spoke, you know, or the emails portrayed how they felt, and it was good to hear. The only thing I didn't like was I thought we shouldn't be so restrictive on the time limit. When someone gets up to speak, let them do the 3 minutes, and then you can say you've reached 3 minutes, how much longer? And, you know, if they say it's another 3 minutes, well, maybe you'd ask them to wait for somebody else. But when somebody says, you know, 30 seconds or a minute, I think we should have let them speak. But that's my only feeling. I just thought it was a little too abrupt and rude to cut him off. Because he did get up 2 more times and speak. Although I think he could have finished the first thing the first time and then got up the second time and would have been fine. But
The only reason I did that was because, as I said at the beginning of this, I counted how many people were present.
Yeah.
And I had to make the assumption that it's possible we'll have 23, and then 2 more people came in, so it was 25.
yeah.
And it occurred to me that we might actually get, I said, oh, what if at 7:30 we get more people? I just, because it was kind of an unknown,
Yeah.
that's why I thought, no, we better be strict about it at first. I felt, yes, I agree with you. I didn't like cutting the gentleman off. You know, and that's why I apologized. I said later, I'm sorry we had to do that.
No, you did.
But
maybe we ought to rethink that just to say,
yeah,
is it another minute? You know, give them the minute.
yeah,
Making them get
you know,
up.
and to speak, I remember Eric bringing up the point at the meeting that maybe, and we saw it tonight. We saw it tonight with this particular with this resident coming to speak. Maybe we could start with, you know, and allow a longer period of time. Because I'm guessing I mean, you have more experience with these types of meetings than most of us do, as far as I know, Wendy. That was a good turnout for something like this, true?
No, it was.
Is it likely we're gonna get a larger number of people at a future meeting? I mean,
I don't know.
and that's like trying to
I mean,
predict a snowstorm.
I think if they feel that they're welcome to say what they want to say, yeah, probably we might get a few more. I don't know how many more. That was kind of the kickoff, so. But I think we ought to be a little more open just to let them talk. You know, if they're talking. I suppose if there's, you know, 200 people sitting there, you'd say, okay.
You might have to be
3
a little more
minutes, but,
restrictive, yeah. Okay, yeah. Other thoughts, comments?
Yeah, as I said at the meeting then, you know, we were just kind of spitballing that amount of time. Maybe, you know, if we, all things being equal, if we allowed for 5 minutes, I think that more than covers everybody. And after you speak for 5 minutes, being asked to, please, you know, we'll give you 1 more minute, and then you can get back in line, is, I think, maybe more doable and feasible. You know, it was really great to see people thought of it, prepared their comments, speeches written. And as we've spoken about earlier, the last thing I hope this ends with is anyone feeling that we weren't as expansive and open and wide ears as possible. So, of course, that's not our intention, but if someone wrote that and then they showed up and they were kind of cut off, you know, some people get very nervous speaking in crowds, and it comes out a little stammery. But I don't know if we're ever going to judge it properly, right? If we say 5 minutes and then we have a really big crowd, and then there's a dozen people that don't get to speak at all, you know, so, you know, maybe we make a game day decision when we show up before we announce kind of the rules based on the number of people in the room. So we can decide here, like, it will be between 3 and 5 based on how many people are there. The first go around, I mean, am I hearing this right? We had 13 people, and then 3 of those 13 spoke again?
Yes, that's fine.
So basically, we call that 16, and then we had 14 emails. So we had 30 people speak in a 2-hour meeting that ended an hour early. So I think 5 minutes, if we had 5 minutes, the meeting probably would have gone an hour and 10 minutes. So it seems like that. But if we show up and there's 85 people there, very unlikely, but in case, we at that point would need to say 5 minutes is too generous of amount of time to be equitable to all the people that want to speak.
I did have a gentleman, just before the meeting started, a resident, chastise the decision by the committee to read aloud email messages that were sent in. And he thought that was unfair to the people who had come to the meeting. And I explained that we had had a robust discussion about that at our October 28th meeting, and this was that we had reached this conclusion because we were trying to, our task is to reach out, our charge is to reach out to the community, and this was a way to be able to do that, especially in the modern era where we have the ability to do that.
Yeah, I think in light of what our charge is, it's completely justifiable and really doesn't deserve any more further discussion.
So do I.
So be it. I see this being like, what's the power move as far as if people show up, we want to give them a chance to fully be heard, and without the awkwardness. Because I commend you, Nick, you and all on doing that. I was thinking, oh man, that'd be that sort of public confrontation like that. And people, I think, all handled it well. To that end, this thing about the PowerPoint. You mentioned the precedent of like not applauding and all that. At town meeting, when someone's making a presentation, this is a custom. Where when the Spur House Development Committee was put together, ad hoc committee to deal with that, and they came as residents to discuss what's going on, they had a few slides that they, right, John?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little different because they had to provide the slides ahead of time because of the logistics of getting them on a laptop and everything.
But that is something that we could ask of as well, that, if you would like to present any visuals, please make sure they're going to do this ahead of time. The same way, like it's nice to follow in the wake of the town meeting. First of all, people have a limited time to speak at town meeting on pretty complex issues, and it's not 5 minutes. So I think we're being more than generous. And I think since they do it at town meeting, I think it's a good idea that we would try to make it happen as well. All under the idea of like, listen, if you want to share, we're creating as many venues as possible for you to do that. Per our chart,
So if I hear what you're saying, Eric, then maybe as part of the next when we do the next advertisement for this next meeting. Now the next meeting is going to be on Zoom.
Okay.
That's what we had talked about. We haven't voted on that. So being able to, if we put in the requirement that if someone wants an image presented, they would send that to the committee before the meeting.
Yep.
That would work, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, somebody just has to be ready to match the visual with the speaker and quickly be able to do it. You certainly don't have time to unhook and hook up laptops and stuff. So
right.
That's the reason why we do it at town meeting by people having to send them ahead of time. It's just so on one laptop you can have everything ready to go, and then it's doing that.
Right.
Yes, but if you're sharing, as the person running the Zoom meeting, you would have the ability to share your screen, and you would have their, 3 or 4 slide deck there. I mean, as teachers, I think it's doable.
So could I have the permission of the committee to respond back to Kieran O'Donnell and tell him that we will each of the future meetings, that we will welcome an image of some sort, but would have to be sent to the committee ahead of time.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt, is that a consensus? Are we okay about that?
What if we said just for the next one and then we see how it goes?
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what could go wrong, but it just seems like committing to multiple meetings right now, we don't really need to.
Yeah.
What was that? I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I was just saying, I don't know that we need to commit to having that as an option for all future meetings. We could just commit for the next
for
one
that
and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine about that if the rest of you are.
But if I could just finish, so to your question about how it went, I think it went really well. That is a really good turnout. I was happy. I thought that the comments were well thought out, a lot to consider. It was endearing that this work paid off and that people care about it and were heard. And my one feeling I left with though is it's going to be, I personally like, how do you kind of make mince or meat of it? Like there's, it's sort of, it's going to be hard to measure. Like, what was the consensus? I don't know what the consensus was. There were lots of different strands about, some was just the aesthetics of the seal, some was about the politics of it. Some was like, so I think maybe it's early on, maybe just one meeting would be one data point, and over time, we might get a better sense of it. So that was just interesting. I thought it was going to be more one way or the other, but it was great to have that many people show up and that many people offer really thoughtful comments.
I have a question. Did anyone leave, like, I know this was like the packet that we gave them on their seats, but did anyone leave this for us?
I did not receive one, and to my knowledge, Ala did not receive one. But we didn't solicit those at the end of the meeting, and maybe that's something we could ask also. I'm just making a list of things.
That way we can get the feedback, kind of to figure out where people are swaying.
One thing I liked a lot actually, was I liked that each of us spoke in some capacity at that meeting. I thought it gave the community a sense of who the people are on the committee. I know you're reading a letter or what have you, but I thought that was beneficial for the community to hear the voices of the other people and to see us all. I thought that was beneficial. I thought the cadence of the meeting went pretty well, and I know I sound like we're patting ourselves on the back. I don't mean to make it sound that way. But I do think it speaks to how well this can go if it's organized. And yes, I admit I was very deliberate about speaking about the tradition in the town of Westborough, town meeting, the 300-year heritage. I was deliberate about that. Because my biggest concern was that I didn't want someone who might, let's say someone says something that others in the room disagree with. I wanted that person still to be heard. And I didn't want to have that person's voice drowned out. I didn't think that would be fair. And ultimately what we decide as a committee is what we decide as a committee, and how we each vote. But I want to make sure everybody has their opportunity to be heard. I think it's really imperative to have that happen. So to that end, I want to think that we did achieve that at this one. Let's see if we can continue to replicate it at future ones. What do the rest of you think?
I think, just what I said before, that we let them speak. Let them say, if someone shows up with a piece of paper and you've written down their thoughts, I think we should let them, even if it goes over the 3 minutes or 4 minutes or 5 minutes. I don't, if they took the time to come and they cared enough to write it down, I think we owe them to let them say the whole thing in one, if they were gonna go on for 20 minutes, maybe not. But just give them an opportunity to say what they wanted to say. I thought it was really awkward to cut the man off and not let him finish, because it wasn't a lot, I think, that he had to say. So I wouldn't want to see that happen again. But other than that, I think it was great. I think everybody got an opportunity to say what they wanted to say.
So for example, if I had said to the gentleman, Jenna was gracious to keep the time. So Jenna said 3 minutes. Your 3 minutes is up. If I had just said to him, how much longer, or can you wrap it up? If I had just done that.
I think you did.
Yeah.
I think you did, and it was okay. It wasn't.
Well, no,
actually,
and then I did have to tell him just no. Like it would.
Well, he also came back at you, it was more like a.
Yeah, well, I guess, but he was frustrated. I mean, and I get that he prepared what he wanted to say. Plus, I had also spoken to him prior to the meeting about he was not happy with the organization of the meeting. But with that all said, to speak to that point, Wendy, I thought about that in the middle of the meeting. I'm thinking, well, if this had been the 10th person speaking, and now it looks like, oh, we're kind of moving right along, then I would have just allowed that directly, But it did allow all present to be able to speak, Any other?
You know, what we could say maybe to kind of thread the needle is each person will be allowed at least 3 minutes. So you say at least 3 minutes, everyone's getting at least 3 minutes, and then if a person goes 3 times as long, it's fair to say, sir, it's been 9 minutes, 3
Yeah.
times the sort of traditional length. Do you have much more to say? You know, so, because you can judge it by the room, right? Like that night with the number of people, if we're halfway through, and now we also know not everyone there is going to talk, right? So that might be a way to do it. Say everyone's going to get at least 3 minutes. No one's going to be stopped before that. But beyond that, you know, we can just do a game day decision. And I know it's put a lot on the side of you
No, that's fine.
to be the, it's mostly going to be the good guy, because, yeah, you've got 2 pages, you can see they flipped it. It's now 4
Yeah.
minutes, but they're obviously going to be done in a moment. We want to let them finish, right? I mean,
Yeah, I remember John Arnold had said this about when he's moderating the meeting, like to get some sense on the rhythm of
Yeah.
where the person is and exactly that. And so, yeah, all right.
Could one just wait maybe some of this is have a sign-up sheet for people who intend to speak when they're entering the meeting? So it goes, you know, it might not be everyone, someone might, you know, in the moment decide they want to speak, but at least we can have a rough sense of how many people are arriving with the intention to speak.
We could, John, is that done? Have you
I've been to public hearings by state agencies that have done that as you've arrived, there's a sign-up sheet to see if you want to speak, and then they call the people in that order. So I've seen that done by a state agency when I went to testify before them, that was part of the deal. Was when you showed up, they asked you to write down, if you were intending to speak, write down your name, your address. And then they had an order, and then the top of the sheet, and you get called in whatever order you signed up in. And if somebody decided in the middle they wanted to speak, their name would go to the end. So I have seen that done.
So we could do that if you.
I do like that it gives an order, at least you know who's going to speak. And
Right, yeah. So I'll let you guys, I just wanted to add a few comments off the top of my head as an observer, but I'll let you guys go first. I just wanted to.
Jenna and Dan, and Ian, if you have other things you want to say?
No, just to finish, I think the session went well overall, that, you know, even if there was a bit of initial awkwardness, that everyone did ultimately have a chance to speak, and that's, you know, a testament to the committee's preparation, and, you know, I think we achieved what we wanted to achieve, which is to hear as many people's opinion and perspective without, you know, any sort of prejudice on our part. So I think it went well in that respect.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that everyone that wanted a chance to speak did, say what they wanted to say, and we gave them the time after, we did cut them off, or if we did cut them off, they did have a chance after to kind of finish, and everyone was able to speak and finish their thoughts and be heard.
Yeah, I agree too. The one thing I was reflecting on was in terms of like time limits. When we receive an email, I usually read it when we receive it, and I read the whole thing. I don't stop after 3 minutes, right? So I feel like there's a little bit of like imbalance between, like if we were to put a time limit, that time limit doesn't apply when the email hits the committee, right? If you follow.
Yeah. A way to do that would be to limit the number of words that someone's gonna, limit the number of words, we can do an equation on how many
Sure.
words are equivalent to three minutes.
Right, right. And then just the other thing was just that I really agreed with what you said about how each one of us had a role to speak at the meeting. I felt good about that, like feeling like it wasn't a small subset of the committee that was addressing the town. Even if we were saying other residents' words, we all had a chance to address the town, and I think that.
So what do you think about that? Should we put that as like a word, just put some kind of a word limit when if we're soliciting comments from the community? Or is that, I didn't, from the comments that we received, I didn't see it as a problem. So it's kind of a little bit of a, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Didn't we say like a 1 page?
We did
limit?
say one
So,
page,
yeah.
so to speak to your point, maybe maybe we just keep that. I'm not trying to, like, it's kind of a, if it ain't broke, don't fix it thing. I'm not looking for a problem, I'm just trying to, I just thought like it was better to, we had talked about, let's debrief, and I just thought, we've got some really good ideas.
Emails work fine. I mean, the longest one was right at 3 minutes, right?
Right.
So you know, if it had gone over 3 minutes, we would have said, all right, we'll stop here just like another speaker, and we'll come back to it if there's still room at the end of the meeting. So I agree with that. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
You would stop if it was.
Just to be consistent, I suppose, right?
I guess it's just the continuity of what the person's saying. I mean, if it was gonna go 10 minutes.
But if we're not gonna do the 3-minute cap anymore, it'll be hopefully a moot point.
And then actually, I think that speaks to your point, Wendy, like, exactly that, like, to speak to what Dan's saying, like, let's say the person did go over, now the timing was such that that didn't happen, but what would we have done if that had happened? Ala had said to me when she went up to read that one letter, she said, this one's long, and I know it's gonna go right up against the 3 minutes, but just stop me when it's 3 minutes. And I was like, okay, because that's what we had established. Rightly or wrong, that's what we established. But
If we do this at least 3 minutes, then we would, you know, because they were close to that.
Right,
So,
but it turned out not to be an
yeah.
issue. so.
and, you know, maybe if and when we get someone who wants to talk for 25 minutes, or we get a 5-page email, we
Mhm.
can revisit this particular
Yeah.
topic. But I would imagine that the comment length are going to be similar to what we saw with these first 30 comments.
Yeah.
We can also preface the meeting by saying, you know, if someone really has a detailed thing that might not fit in that time, by all means, please share it with the committee, and we're here to gather the information, you know, so that's established up front, that you're not being cut off. You have a different venue to share it.
Which might speak also to the idea of having the web board be
Yep.
able to present. So it's just to keep in time and pace of the meeting, it's 8:11. John has a few comments and observations John Arnold has a few comments and observations he'd like to make. And I would like to try to move into how we're gonna figure out this reaching out to diverse stakeholders portion of the meeting. So, John?
Yeah, I just want to make a few comments as an observer of the meeting and then having thought about it afterwards. There's a couple of things that, I mean, obviously your decision. I do want to mention that there's something to be said for consistency. And some people, and the difference between your public information sessions and a town meeting is that a town meeting, there are rules where someone can essentially move the question and stop the discussion. So what you saw, you had a room with like 20 plus people, and there was no, and you were trying, and so the problem you had was if all these people speak, how are we going to try to get done in a reasonable amount of time? And as a public information session, rightfully so, there's not an opportunity for somebody to move the question and terminate debate. So the things that I thought of in retrospect, thought about is a couple of things, is you can early on ask the people who are there to raise their hand if they're intending to speak. That will let you figure out, because I was surprised, I really did think everyone there was going to speak. So I was surprised at the number of people that were there to listen. It wasn't good or bad, I was just surprised. I assumed anybody who was going to come sit for 2 hours probably had something to say. So to get the rule of thumb of how many people here speak in terms of time, just ask, you could always just ask, you know, and as you go on every half hour, you could say how many of you here feel you still need to speak. So that's one question. Another thing is that it happens to me at town meeting too. I think it would be beneficial to always have the rules of engagement up on the screen, like a split screen. So for instance, some of the people who came in late were surprised that there was a time limit, but if you were there at the beginning, it wasn't very surprising because it was there. So not only could the outreach and the advertisement, not a flyer or whatever, but the advertisement in the articles could mention that there was going to be a time limit. And I just want to mention that there is a power to getting people to summarize their thoughts and to be consistent. So I think you should just give some thought that if admittedly this is all a learn as you go, I would think about whether you want to go from a 3-minute limit the first meeting to an unlimited amount, because then people might feel that they've been shortchanged, or they come back and say the same thing. So as I've thought about so again, you have a different problem because in the town meeting, it's the meeting's decision whether to keep going or stop, but your job is to get as much as possible. You may need, if there's another large meeting and everybody wants to speak, you may just want to tell people it could be that not everyone's going to get to speak tonight. If 100 people show up and everyone speaks 5 minutes, I don't think anybody wants to sit there for 500 minutes. So that's the power of also having follow-on meetings. And it could be a positive in terms of Ian's idea of signing in, first come, first serve. It could be that that's a way to say, how do we decide where to draw the line? So that was an interesting point. And another thing you could consider, as I thought about the problems, is I think everyone either in writing or speaking can probably summarize their position in 3 to 5 minutes, but you could make it clear that if somebody wants to write a more expansive essay, that that essay could be sent to the committee, in which case it becomes part of the public record. And as Dan mentioned, you can spend all the time you want reading it, but you could just say the summary might be read aloud as an equal to making an oral presentation, but the entire essay isn't going to be read aloud at the meeting. So there's ways you can finesse that. And so I think I think there was another thing, but I can't think of it offhand, and I didn't have time to jot down my thoughts. But I think part of it is just impressing.
3 minutes are almost up anyway.
Yeah, it's impressing upon people, that if they don't get heard tonight, there'll be a next time. And that may be the first come, first served may be the way to say, how do you non-arbitrarily draw the line of where to stop? And then just think about consistency, going forward, that it move around a little as you learn more about the process, but, you might want to think about not having it move too much in terms of how much time people get.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's a benefit to a time limit of some sort, because, to speak to your point, John, it does present a sense of fairness to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that there's a great benefit to that. But I think what Eric said earlier, look at the number of people showing up, and if at the next meeting we have 10 people, then, okay, then maybe we could say a minimum of 3 minutes, and if someone speaks longer, let it go. We could allow that, But I would just say I think for consistency, we might want to consider just keeping it at the 3 minutes. That would be my suggestion, that we consider doing that. Well, shall we move into anybody else with comments?
I do, sorry.
Sure.
I have one question about the thing on the website, having people, submit their comments through the website. Because it is a public thing, would it be our job to monitor those comments and to respond to them? Or how would we control that?
Yeah. My thought on that was that if those are sent to the committee, they appear on the website. Yes, someone from this committee would have to monitor that. I mean, just in the event someone put expletives or something that was inappropriate, something unrelated to the task of the committee, I would think we would have to do that.
So, just to clarify, these are different from just going to an email address, right? In other words, it's almost like a public, and you describe it as like a public wall where people can observe what other folks are putting in.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Like, I'm a teacher, and I belong to the advanced placement program for United States history. There's a public wall where comments can be shared, but that goes to a moderator. You send an email, send that message to the moderator, who reviews it, then decides to publish it. The task of that moderator acknowledges receipt of the message, and then reviews it, and then publishes it. So to answer your question, Jonah, they would have to, yes, one of us would have to be monitoring that.
And would we respond to it and comment on it, or because since we aren't allowed to discuss things out of the meetings,
Yeah.
would it just be like the blanket, thank you, we received it, or?
When the person submitted it, it would be, thank you, we received it. And we would have to, on that public board, we would have to have some disclaimer that said the comments must relate to the charge of the committee. And I think the 3 questions that we fashioned at the October meetings would be the basis for that. But we got to figure out, do you want to do that or do you not want to do that? veering us, it's not getting us to the, talking about the stakeholders,
Yeah,
but I
that
do
was-
think we need to talk about that. So, do you want to think about this a little bit more? Do you want to, would you rather try to get
Yeah,
it
let's think
started?
about it. I think we have a lot that we need to do tonight, that would
Yeah.
be nice to get done, but we also are missing 2 members tonight, so I would vote to
Yeah.
sort of table that and revisit it the next time we meet.
All right, so I'm going to call that the,
But of course, that's just my opinion, so we can.
I think, because I would like to hear everyone's opinion, I know that, our next meeting is gonna be is in theory a public information gathering session, right?
right,
And then we're probably not meeting it as a committee until
after
early
the
to
first
mid-January,
meeting,
right?
right.
So if we do wanna have this up and running, it feels like we should probably either do it, it's almost like not an now or never, but
Yeah.
if we open it up in January, is that too late? Maybe it's not, but.
John, has there been a protocol for other committees or?
No, I don't know. The only, you might want to just check with the people who did the master plan committee, because I know they had a more extensive, they had their own website, and they actually used a firm that gathered questions, but I don't recall that the submissions were actually made public. And so I would you might just want to ask somebody in town hall, or ask somebody who was on the master plan review committee, and I can get a name if you need a name for that.
Okay.
But I mean, I just want to reiterate that, on Jenna's point, you can't really deliberate because the deliberation has to be in a meeting. And anything sent to the town email address is an open record. So I think part of the conversation comes down to, does it matter if other people can see what other people are saying? And is that significantly different than somebody speaking their piece to the committee and having it be an open record that you could either read or discuss as the committee moves on in their deliberations?
So maybe a way to decide that is, is the charter part of our task to foment conversation between residents, or for us to gather information from residents? Because we already have a way to do that via the email. So if we're supposed to also encourage cross-conversation and have some residents find out what other residents, then the wall's the way to go. But if that's not what we're supposed to do, I see this as a kind of a logistical nightmare that one of us now has to be in charge of and is gonna make decisions to put stuff, and so I think, like, do we have at your fingertips, is that what we're tasked to do? Not only gather information, but also give a chance for residents to talk to each other? I mean, that happens in the open forum, and that's a good side benefit, but I'm afraid I don't have it in front of me. Do you remember? Do we have the original charge from the town meeting as to what we're supposed to do?
The charge didn't explicitly say to encourage conversation in the community. I mean, that
Well, then
wasn't
I
there.
think we just keep getting it via the email. I don't know why create.
Nick, you might be able to just have a conversation with Alan and just see if he knows if other groups in town have done it, and then find out, like, what would the terms of service be, how would moderation happen?
Okay.
'Cause there are a lot of details that would have to be thought through, because it would be something put up by a town committee, not just a person, in terms of, what would the terms of service, what would the privacy policy, how would it be archived? There are a number of questions that I don't think any of us here really know the answer.
And then if you receive a comment and there's no person or name, and you write back, you don't hear back, then what? And then if you get a name and an address, does someone have to verify that that person's actually at that address? It just sort of seems like a nightmare to me. I don't remember, I commented on the master plan, I don't remember seeing anyone else comment. It was a way to share information with the committee, and that's that. So, I mean, this is my opinion, but already just the fact that we've been speaking about for 20 minutes and have now more things to consider than we started with.
There seems like a lot of details that would need to be sorted out.
Yeah.
When I talked earlier, I said, there seems like a lot to,
Yeah.
it's way too early. And I
So-
don't know if we're, it seems like there's a lot more potential pitfalls and benefits. If we
So-
already have the email address and the open forums, and, there's a lot of ways to get in touch with us.
So what I'm hearing from the group is this is probably maybe more to manage and more to handle relative to the benefit of the way we would receive information. We already have other methods to receive information from the public. So what I'm hearing is this probably might take us in a direction that, in a direction that may not give us anything new and different relative to gathering information and opinion from the community that we're, relative to the methods we already have set up, number one. Number two, what I'm hearing is we really might want to put the brakes on this for now. Could I have the permission of the committee to at least contact the master plan committee to find out how this went about, whether something like this did transpire, number one. Number two, I was thinking I might contact the town manager and ask her if she's aware of any other ways that this has been done. And if that is so, that if A, it was so, B, it was successful, then you know what, then we could address it in our January meeting and have it up for 2 to 3 months, assuming we're still trying to reach that target of presenting to the town meeting in March. Does that make sense? Would that be acceptable if I'm able to, I'm willing to at least contact and ask. Is that okay? Shall we move on? So, the diverse stakeholders and outreach. If all of you could go back to that second message from Shelby Marshall, that second page from Shelby Marshall, if you look at the bullet points, the second bullet point down, there are 13 groups, community groups that Select Board Member Marshall gives us, ranging from the Rotary Club, the Civic Club, Women's Club. I'm going to read the list because someone who's watching this at home may not know what we're referencing. Garden Club, Newcomers Club, Westborough Connects, the Lions Club, WASA, W-A-S-A, WABA, W-A-B-A, WEFA, school parent groups, WCLT, and the Historical Society. So there are 13 different groups. To reach out to these groups, and at our October 28th meeting, in addition to these 13, we included the municipal workers, many municipal workers, including the police, the Department of Public Works, and the firefighters, and the EMS. We also included schools, so that's 15 if my math is right. And then we also added the Interfaith Committee, which would be 16, and I think that's all I have. So there's 16 groups. To date, we have 8 members of the committee who have attended the meetings with regularity. We are missing 2 members tonight, but by and large, we've had 8 people attend the meetings regularly. That math says to me, and I would propose this and to see what you think, what if each of us took on 2 of these groups to contact and then report back to the committee with information from each of the groups? I'm of the opinion it's not necessary for the 8 of us to go to each of these 16 groups. I don't think it's feasible to do that. And I'm not sure if I think it might be more prudent for us to be able to just reach out, contact the people who lead these groups, in the case of the municipal employees, to perhaps either meet or solicit comment and go that route. What do you think about that? Do you have a different idea? What would you suggest?
So would the idea to be for whichever of the groups we're tasked with reaching out to, send them the 3 questions, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be my thinking, that we could do this either through an email, a phone call.
And direct them to the committee's email address? Or?
Yes,
Yeah.
and then solicit information that way. For example, I know it wasn't at the October 28th meeting, it was the meeting before that in mid-October. Phyllis had said she would welcome connecting and reaching out to the Women's Club, for example. So what would you say about that? Is there a particular group you're looking at where you're saying, oh, I would like to reach out to that group? Would you like to divide them up? is anyone, this is this veered into, whoa, a little too much more time than you were anticipating? So give me some, give the group some sense of what you think, please.
Can you just tell me what we're reaching? I'm sorry, I missed.
No, you're fine. On the, so on the agenda, the stapled agenda,
Yeah,
on the second page, where Shelby's
yes,
email?
I saw that.
Okay.
But you're, what is it we're asking them? Their
We would ask them,
feelings?
I'd say we would send the 3 questions that we asked at the information gathering session
Okay.
and see what we got.
Okay.
I'm fine
What do you
doing that.
think?
My wife serves on the board of the Newcomers Club, so I'm happy to take those on, whomever else. But my question would be, do we want them to send comments back sort of collectively as the group, or ask them to send this out to their individual members? Because there's a difference between, well, here's an email on behalf of the Newcomers Club versus here's 15 emails from individual Newcomers Club members.
The biggest advantage I would see is, so if I reach out, I used to be in the Civic Club and on the board of directors with the WCLT, so I reach out to those 2 groups, and ask them to disseminate the information to their members, because they have a email list with 80 or 90 or 100 people on it, of which those people are more likely to open the email from the president of the club they're in, and then click on the link to email directly their thoughts. So I also was thinking that this would be a list of these emails we could send to those contacts to spread the word about our in-person informational sessions. You know, could do a little bit of both. Versus like, what's the position of the Civic Club on the town seal? Having been part of those groups, that won't happen. That's not how the group kind of works.
Right.
But hey, president of Civic Club, nice to see you, looking forward to buying my tree this Saturday. Would you please forward this email? And when I was part of these clubs, that happened frequently. So I think it's easy enough, they have the email list, just zip, clip, and, you know, whether people do it or not is one thing, but it could yield, you know.
Yeah.
And if it gets a couple dozen thoughts from residents, well, that's what we're trying to do.
That's my thinking. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that would be the way to do it. We might, out of these 16 groups, maybe we might get one collective response on behalf of it. We might, but I don't think we need to do that. I think I would think of it more as we have residents who are connected to these various groups, this rich number of groups, and it's a way to be able to solicit more comment.
I agree.
That's what I would suggest.
That's what I hope for, right?
So if you provide the email, the questions and the 3 questions, I mean, and then you just want to know who, I mean, I'd reach out to the Rotary Club and Historical Society.
Okay? Where we are moving with lightning speed here. Hold on, I'm gonna assume, Phyllis is on record as saying that she would reach out to the Women's Club, so I'm gonna assume that, but I will write to Phyllis separately just to confirm that, okay?
So like I said, I'll do Civic Club, WCLT, and Westborough Connects. Is that Maureen Ayotte isn't, she's a mucky net, so she, I'm sure, you know, help out by forwarding any email I sent her or them.
I would like to reach out to the schools and to the school parent group and to the schools.
I guess I'll reach out to the newcomers, and if someone can give me the contact information for one of the groups we haven't done it all, I'll be happy to do another one too. I just don't know any other.
Would you want to reach out to the municipal employees?
Sure. Maybe I just
Okay.
give me whose email we need, and
Okay.
I'll be happy
And,
to.
John, we could probably maybe rely on.
I think you could just ask Christie, or maybe
Christie would be able to.
you just ask her the best way to, if she could just send something out to
All right.
everyone, just saying if they've got thoughts.
I have no connection to any of these, so I can take whatever is.
Yeah,
Do
same.
you- So what I have left, if I'm doing this correctly, okay, so we have the diversity committee, which Ala had said to me she had said at our October 28th meeting, she would reach out to that. I remember her saying that. So the Garden Club, Lions Club, WASA, WABA, WEFA, WCL, oh, someone just, you said WCLT, right? Sorry, okay. Is there one or two that you want to see the list? You just pick?
I'll do the garden club too.
The Garden Club?
Yeah, that's
All right.
okay.
You just add Wendy's to the Garden Club. And what I will do is, Ian, I'm gonna give you this list,
Okay.
and then you can put it into the minutes, so we have it.
Yep.
It doesn't really matter. What are these acronyms stand? WASA, WABA?
I was
It's the Westborough Athletic Social Association, I think. And then the WABA, I think, is the Westborough Athletic Boosters Association.
That's the athletic boosters.
All right, I got both of those.
Okay, all right. And how about WEFA, John, what is that?
Is that the, I don't know what the A is, the only WEF I know is the Westborough Education Foundation. I don't know if
That's
there's,
probably what that is.
that's the only thing I can think that
Right,
it
that's
might
probably
be.
what
There's a
that
Westborough
is. That one I
Education
wasn't really
Foundation.
know.
Because it's mixed in with the
If you
schools.
Yeah,
So it's-
but it might be a separate contact.
Yeah.
If you wanna pick, like, if you
Yeah.
wanna do all the school ones.
Yeah, why don't I take that one then, okay?
Are we all gonna ask the same question?
We're gonna ask the 3 questions that we put in the poster that were, where we swear, then where we thought, here's the first question, we want to get an answer, and then that went over like a thud at the at the meeting. Okay. Good. I think we're good on that. Obviously, I'll verify with Ala and I'll verify with Phyllis about those other 2 groups. Okay. And we should be good on that. All right. Now, one quick question: are there other stakeholders that anyone can think of that we're not reaching out to beyond these 16? Oh, you know what? I didn't say anything about the interfaith committee. I just thought of that. Jenna, could I add your name to that one? Okay.
For the schools, were you going to include trying to get in touch with the parent groups and the students themselves? Because I know somebody, I think it was the select board meeting, somebody mentioned actually getting the word out that students were welcome to
Yes.
send in their opinions as well. So.
Yeah, what I thought on that was school parent group, students, and then the principals of the schools.
Okay, yeah, you might just, if you touch base with Amber, just to get pointers, you might just want to say you're trying to do as broad a swath as possible, because she would probably know who the contact points for all that.
Okay.
And it could be that she could, target through the principals to get to like either history teachers or something to essentially, a handout, or they could spread the word that if you got something to say, here's the email address.
Yeah, for example, with the students, for example, at Westborough High,
Mhm.
that was brought to my attention, and I said, well, we had discussed that, and I mentioned that this group thought it also might be an opportunity for a teachable moment for the students in the community to know that their voices were being heard, and it would be a way to possibly introduce some of them to the way town government functions.
Yeah.
But I think it would be a beneficial thing for
Yeah.
the students to learn. So maybe that might be also the student council at Westborough High, for example. Are there any other groups that were? This is a good starting point. If there's if after this meeting is broadcast on Westborough TV, if someone comes to you to say, hey, you missed this group, then we can bring it back when we have our next meeting, which will most likely be in January.
Well, one group I'm very desirous to tap into would be if we, and I think it's a great idea, the next point on her list is to arrange one of the offsite meetings at Alberta Rive.
You can get to Ian.
And so, it wouldn't necessarily, the email is how they lend itself to that, but I'd be willing to go over there and see what the story is. Do they have a community room? Do they have someone who acts as like a sort of on-site program director, and by having the meeting there, if we got many of the residents from there, I think we'd be tapping into a subset of the population here in town that I haven't crossed paths with so much on this, up to this point in time. So I'll swing by there.
Great.
And see what's up.
All right, so,
Well, you mentioned, I just popped into my mind, you mentioned talking to Alma. You might, I don't know if you need a liaison for the Council on Aging, because in addition to them publicizing through their newsletter that you might have an information session, it could be you could write up a little blurb to say anybody who wants to could either send a letter or or send an email.
okay.
Just because I know a lot of people said make sure that you get in touch with the senior citizens, and they're sometimes a hard to reach group, so it doesn't hurt to overdo in that direction.
And that, John, will lead us seamlessly into the last part of our meeting about planning the information gathering sessions for number 2 and number 3. So unless anyone has anything else on that, because I am trying to just keep one little eye on the time, but we're fine on time right now. We're actually we're a little bit ahead on the agenda. So the information gathering sessions, number 2 and number 3, shall we make a decision about what we're going to try to do for December? We're going to try to use the Zoom function to be able to go about that way. Am I correct about that? That was what we had discussed at the October 28th meeting. And I guess just some simple logistics to clarify would be the date of the meeting, and then how long we're going to hold the meeting. So what I would suggest, I don't remember from the last meeting, do we have a date we had suggested?
Tentatively said December 16th, 2 weeks from today.
Okay. How does that, I cannot be at the December 16 meeting, but that doesn't mean that we can't have a meeting, just to let you know. But December 16, that's a Thursday night. How does that strike everybody? Would you like to still strive for that? We can do that.
That one again is going to be a little tough for me. It's my son's 6th birthday, and my mom might be coming up from the Cape and staying over. But that's not a game changer. I mean, I don't think we need all 9 or 8 members of the meeting to be there. That one.
Is this a Zoom? Is this the Zoom?
Yes.
I'm free, but I can, any other Thursday night is fine too.
Unless you wanted to go earlier in the week, would you want to go on the 14th? Or, we had this the first information gathering. We had the first information gathering session on a Monday night. I think it makes sense to have it on a different night, because if someone works on a Monday, maybe it might be possible they don't work on a different night. So I do think it makes sense to have it on a different night. We can stay with the 16th. Give me some idea what you want to do here. Do you want to stay with the 16th? Would you rather go to the 15th?
Yeah, 14th, the 15th is fine.
Wednesday the
Because it's a
15th?
different night. I like that. I think
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
Phyllis had said that, I'm remembering our discussion of this at the last meeting, and we had landed on that Thursday because it worked for a few people, Phyllis being one of them, but
Okay.
that's and I'm not sure about Allah, but either one of those previous days works for me.
Shall we then, if that was the case, shall we, assuming that, yes, that's true. Now, I remember you saying that. I remember Philip saying that. Then maybe we should just stick with the 16th. Then maybe we should just do that. If that was the date we had tentatively agreed on. I would like to be there if we could. John, I have a question about the Zoom. How do we host that, and how does all that?
I was going to suggest you probably should talk to Mark Stockman or someone to make sure that whoever's going to run it gets a dry run or some practice, because I don't know. I've never actually been the host of one, but I've attended them. But I know somebody in town can create a meeting link, and then typically the chairman or whoever runs the meeting is like the meeting host, and then they allow people in and they sort of control to control it, but I don't know the mechanics, so I would say whoever is going to administer the meeting should probably set up a time to go over what the details are with somebody from the town's IT team
Okay.
to
You
make
can
sure.
share
they-
host duties too.
Right, well, that's the other thing.
What was that?
It depends just,
You can share host duties.
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah,
like,
yeah.
But I don't know,
mean,
like, who
with
has-
TJ,
I don't know who
I would give
controls-
my TA
Yeah,
permission.
permission to set up a meeting and to host it and all that. I don't know the details of that. I know I've just been sent links to town meetings and I've joined.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this was our world right there.
Yeah, right, yeah.
This Eric and Sudi, and you did too, so, and I know Ala did that too, so oddly enough, 5 of us, did you
Yeah,
have to do this
yeah.
too last year, Dan, or no?
I mean, not for any educational purpose,
Yeah.
but I set up meetings all the time.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, just navigating the multiple people and trying to,
Yeah.
you have to figure out a little protocol on when people have a hand raised and indicate
Right.
whether they want to
Yeah.
speak and things
Yeah, I
like that.
assume that you guys have expertise in that. For me, it's just creating the meeting and making sure that somebody has permission to start it and let people in, and I don't know the details of that, but
Okay.
surely somebody in the town's IT team does.
And, I mean, we would have to set up a protocol if in the unlikely event that we were Zoom bombed, which could happen also, someone inappropriately got into the
Yeah.
meeting, and then I'm thinking like a high school teacher when I say that, but that it does happen, so. Okay, so would we want to say 7 to 9 PM? Similar hours to what we had for the first information gathering session?
Makes sense, yeah.
Okay. So December 16th, 7 to 9 PM. And we then we would go through similar protocols to set up advertising this. And including all the contacts that we went through for the first information gathering session. Eric, could we impose upon you to
Sure.
adjust the,
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
the poster?
Yeah.
I can certainly contact the town hall again, the town manager's office to have the announcement put on the video board. And then contact the other media outlets about that. I go back to a question I asked when we first met tonight. Based on the responses we got from the public, from the residents in the community, does this group feel like we got some answers, some answers to those 3 questions? In other words, is there anything you'd want to tweak in those questions? And I'm not trying to take us down a rabbit hole, but I just want to ask that question one more time.
I think John's point earlier for consistency,
To keep it.
I would stick with those 3, especially if those are the 3 questions we're gonna email to the others, the
Okay.
stakeholders.
I just wanted to make sure, you know.
There's my point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I just figured it was worth asking one more time.
I also think that people kind of showed up with what they wanted to say already in mind, and the questions may not have been necessary, but like, if it's their consistency,
You know, too, I think those 3 questions help guide the residents who wrote to us. I think it helped because most of the residents responded to those questions in some manner.
yeah, in writing,
Yeah.
You know?
But when they spoke, I feel like everyone already had like a kind of set kind of script that they were going to go with, whether
Right.
they had anything to do with the questions or not. I think they kind of just wanted to.
Right, so for example, we had someone who said, oh, we should not change the seal. Well, then I wouldn't expect them to answer the 3rd question, which makes sense, you know?
Right.
Someone who says, no, I want the seal, I think the seal should change. We did get, let's go in this direction, let's try this direction, you know? So I thought that the guiding questions, and they are, in the teaching world, we would call them guiding questions. I do think they kind of helped us a bit. Okay. So far, so good on that? Is there anything, you're hearing me now, is there anything that appears that I'm missing for information gathering session number 2?
Just the logistics of, people wanting to speak, the way I did it. I've done, continue to do it, is we use the chat if you want to speak. Or we can, the raised hand, I think sometimes gets like it's easy to overlook, especially if you put a lot of photo faces on there, so you enter the chat.
Yeah, you know,
I think we should enable, like, or I think with chat, I don't think that they should be able to chat everyone. It should be to host only.
okay, chat to the host only. And similar to the idea we had earlier about having a sign-up sheet, that would be how the person would put the request in to speak. So we'd do that where they would send a message to the host to do that. And we would say in that chat that you'd have to put your name, would we say that put their name and street address?
Yeah.
Would that be
Make it
unreasonable
very
to do
easy
that?
for-
Okay. Okay.
You
And,
can also print the chat too, at the end, that way, like, that would help, yeah, with the notes.
okay. And we would establish, timeframe for consistency, we'd still establish the 3 minutes. If the person's speaking, we'd be reasonable about allowing the person to go over if that happened, to speak to Wendy's point earlier. And we would allow images, and for this one, actually, this format would actually probably welcome, it actually might work actually pretty well. I wouldn't the screen anyway, but to try to broadcast an image of the person on the screen. Other things we're missing in that?
I would
Oh,
just,
yeah.
I know you're going to talk about it next, but I would emphasize in the outreach that there are going to be more in-person and some directed at like senior citizens, because I know some people seem to be concerned about thinking that you have to be, electronically savvy to do this. So that this one's just, I just don't want it to become a lightning rod of, hey, what about me? So I would just, whatever outreach you do, I would emphasize that there are going to be more in-person ones, and there will be some specifically targeted at accessibility for senior citizens and other groups.
Do you think it would make sense, John, for, because we're advertising the Zoom session,
Yeah.
that, or would this cause confusion, to also advertise that we're having a third session in person, which would most likely be at the senior center?
Yeah, I think if you could do
Just,
if
in
you
other
do
words,
the outreach together, that does
do
help
that
balance
together,
it out.
because that
yeah.
may allay a concern, and then
Yeah.
as a third line or a third statement,
Yeah.
we would expect probably to have at least one more additional one beyond that, am I correct about, what do you think?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think by then? Because that would have been, so that would be 1, 2, 3, there would be a fourth additional session of some sort. We wouldn't number it, but to say there will be an additional session.
If we think we need it, kind of wait and see what happens at the next session. And then
the senior
seniors,
center, but yeah, my thinking on that was to try to do some kind of a additional public session sometime during it, like maybe on a Saturday, especially during the day, perhaps not targeted only to at the senior center, the one we have at the senior center, other members of the community can come to that, but obviously, and we'll make it clear that's what we would like. But I'm thinking, what if we had one more additionally to that in sometime in January, possibly, because I'm hesitant to say early February, because we set to get on that first week of February, that's the snowiest time of the year. But we did that would be 4 of those sessions. And we might, by that point, feel like we might start hearing many similar comments. And we might be at a point where, I'm just thinking this through, like, we might get to a point we hit February 1st where this committee may say, we've had 4 sessions, we might have a pronounced discussion, a little bit of a discussion of, do we need a 5th one or not? Or are we ready to start preparing a report to the town meeting, That might happen, that might not, I don't know. But, I mean, I'm gathering just from the comments we had from the first one, I'm thinking will we need to go beyond a fifth session? I'm starting to think maybe we might not need to, but
I don't, so.
I don't know, maybe that's probably
If
pretty
you have the
presumptive.
third one at the senior center,
Yes,
and you invite the public too,
yes,
that, and you'll see how many people show up.
Yeah.
You may find, I don't know.
okay, all right. So we will do the third, so can we now discuss what time? Okay, we're okay, we're all good? Let's go to that third session, the third info session. And in the packet we had at the beginning, for somebody listening at home, so I referenced this earlier, that some proposed dates that I sent on behalf of the committee to the executive director of the Westborough Senior Center, Alma DeMonch. The three dates were Saturday, January 8th, Saturday, January 15th. Alma said that anything we hold, or Monday, January 17th. Alma said that any of those dates worked, but she would suggest that we do it in the afternoon. So I proposed a 1 to 3 p.m. time frame that would allow for people to go to lunch before they came to the meeting. And then secondly, that we have a snow date.
I would recommend the 8th from 1 to 3, and then the snow day being the 17th. If the 15th is gonna be snowy, it's likely to also mess up the 17th, so I don't think it's smart to have your snow day be that close to your first day. And hopefully it will be, we won't have a snow issue, and so that gets us closer to January. So that'd be my vote, 1 to 3 on the 8th, with the snow day being 1 to 3 on the 17th.
I do have a conflict on January 8th. I'm taking a group of students to an event that day, so.
Was that?
Yeah, I have an all-day event. So I have a conflict that day, but I did propose it again. I do not need to be here for that, but.
I also have a conflict.
You have a
that day.
conflict? Nothing?
I think that should work. I might be a little late, but I think the afternoon is definitely better than the mornings.
Okay.
Any of these work fine for me?
Any of them work? I mean, if I had a preference, I would prefer the 15th, but that,
It's fine.
I don't have a strong opinion either way, other than the unlikely, to be honest, the snow thing.
yeah.
We're just getting less snow.
Yeah.
So
But I would prefer the 15th if we could, if that's all right.
It's fine.
So we'd say January 15th, 1 to 3 p.m. And it would be at the Westborough Senior Center. But we have to make it, we'd be very clear that this is to invite the entire community to come. So then to speak to your point, Eric, about a snow date then, would we want to go propose the following Saturday, I think is the 22nd, am I correct about that?
Yeah.
So we'd have a snow date of the 22nd, would that work for everyone also?
Are we worried at all that she won't be able to sign off on that one, because you guys would only kick these dates around?
I'm not as worried about that, just as long as there was a snow day. She just, yeah. I inferred from her message that she was so quick to say any of these dates work. I think it's just as long as we give advance notice
Yeah.
on it, it'll work for them, for that space. So how about we do this? I'll write to Alma if that date does not work, if the snow date does not work,
You could fall back to the 17th.
we could fall back to the 17th. It's 2 days later, but it is on a Monday. I mean, I know it's a federal holiday,
I couldn't do that
but, okay,
holiday now.
all right.
Okay.
You could,
Yeah.
I can.
but that would be a snow date, so. Eric, yeah,
Yeah, I think so.
all right.
So the 17th instead of the 15th?
No, the 15th would be the primary
Snow day?
target date,
Oh.
and then the snow date would be the 17th.
Well, was that only if you couldn't get the 22nd?
Only if we couldn't get the 22nd. So we would,
Oh.
okay, so in order, the 15th would be the primary date, snow date the 22nd. If Alma writes back and says, no, the 22nd is no good, then we would default back to the 17th of the snow date.
Oh, okay.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yep.
Make sense? Okay. Any other business that you'd like to bring up?
I guess maybe just a request, I think this email that we're gonna send out, if it's possible, and you and I could speak offline, but it mentions the meeting that we're gonna be having.
Mm-hmm.
It would be helpful to have a link to the Zoom link. It would also be helpful to have a hyperlink to the speech that Tony gave, and a hyperlink to our slideshow, which would probably be somewhat modified, because the slideshow that was shown had something unique to the physical hall presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if we're gonna do this, let's do it once and do it right, versus ask 2 weeks later, hey, could you, how about sending this and sending that? Like I said, you and I could, organize this offline, I wouldn't be debating about this, so I think we'd be fine with that open meeting, but you get what I'm saying, like,
I do.
it's
because-
like one-stop shopping, like,
Yeah.
hey, here's what we're up to, here's things to consider, here's a link to come to our Zoom meeting, here's the email if you want to just comment. And if we created it, then we can disseminate it to this group, and each of us could forward it on to those groups we signed up for.
I agree with you.
Versus
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Versus each of us kind of coming up with our own way of,
The same.
No,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like a blanket message
Yeah.
to everyone, so
Yeah.
we're not.
Yeah, yeah.
If, so hyperlink to the slideshow, hyperlink to the comments from Tony Weber,
Yeah.
the town historian that we presented at the
Yeah.
first meeting. So we would have those, and a link on how to make comments,
the email address, which.
email address, yep.
Which shows up as a hyperlink, so
Yep.
that's easy enough.
Okay,
And then the Zoom link.
yep,
So I guess that would probably be the priority, because I'd like to also put it on the poster. Although people aren't really gonna write it all down, but the poster can exist electronically. Like I'll have me share it with her so she can pass it out to the group she's part of. And if the link to the Zoom call is on there, then that's also on, on the websites and stuff that she posted to.
okay,
If it makes it easier on the poster, you can just do the Zoom ID and the password.
Okay, yeah.
That way they can, like, if they see it
Yeah,
somewhere,
take
they
a
can take
picture
a
of it.
picture of it.
Or a QR code.
Yeah,
Yeah.
QR code.
okay,
You can also make a short URL, so it's not the bazillion long thing.
Yep.
If somebody has access to a short URL maker.
Should we also include information about the January, in this email, advertise the January meeting too?
yes, on January 15th.
Yeah.
Okay. Eric, do you want to contact Mark Stockman about setting this up?
Who's Mark Stockman?
He's the IT director,
The
the town's IT director.
For the community?
Yeah, I can reach out to
Do you
him.
want to reach out to him?
While you're talking to him, you might want to see if he can set you up so your email doesn't bounce too. Because he
Okay,
said he
yeah.
thought he had some things you might be able to try for that.
Okay,
And I did have one other question. Would it be helpful if I put together some kind of a template message? I'd send it out to our group, just to give it, for some consistency about when we contact all these different interest groups. if I just put some kind of a template together with that. And then obviously you will tinker with it and rephrase it to personalize it yourselves, but just so we have something that we make sure that everything, that the questions are included, et cetera. Would that make sense? All right. Okay. Other comments? Anything else we're missing? We got a lot more done here tonight. We got a lot more done tonight than I thought we were going to. I thought this was gonna take longer than it is, but,
When you post the agenda for one of your meetings, you should probably just put an agenda item to talk about when you're gonna have another one of these kind of meetings. Because you've talked about 2 information sessions, but not your next sort of just regular committee meeting. So you don't have to plan it now, because it's probably best to find out when all, 8 or 9 people are available. But you might just want to put, when you post the agenda for the information sessions, you may just want to put on the agenda for after the information session that the committee is going to set future meeting dates, just so it's covered. And
okay,
also so you don't forget
because I
to
didn't do that tonight.
Either that, or you'll end up with it being middle of January and you've forgotten to schedule when the next one of these kind of meetings is.
Okay, so all right, so.
You could put it on each of them, and then you could always just say, we'll defer it. I mean, I just want to make sure that the committee remembers that, so you don't have to like then post the meeting to just to talk about when the meeting's going to be.
Yep.
You know.
Because I would assume we would probably look to want to have a meeting. We would probably want to have a meeting prior to this meeting at the senior center. Am I correct about that? Or do you think it would be best to wait and have a meeting after we have the 2 info gathering sessions?
If we're not meeting till, basically a month after our Zoom call, it might make sense to try to meet, after the new year.
That's what I was
Between the
thinking.
Zoom and the senior center.
Okay.
The week of Monday, January 3rd, maybe.
Yeah.
So so then we would add into the Zoom meeting on December 16, we will add in that we will establish a time when the Zoom meeting when the public forum concludes, we will then set time aside to be able to establish a meeting time in January. So does that make sense?
Mhm.
Oh, at the Zoom meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? All right. Okay. Other business. Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, so Wendy made the motion to adjourn, Eric seconded it. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, raise your hand, please. It's unanimous and adjourned at 9:08. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.